So today is this kind of topic where we just try to talk a bit about migration or SAP integration, what comes up. The chat is open, the Q&A is open, so please put in your question. That would make this a lot more interested. And if you have something you also want to say, we may even be able to unmute you and you can come with your comments. I think there should be a way for you to say, hey, you want to talk and come up and ask something. What's Michael saying? Yeah, okay. Yes. So we're start. Yes, my name is Jeroen Knops and I'm the founder of Figaf. I've been working a long time with SAP Integration, trying to automate as much as possible. And today I have Jeroen. Jeroen, would you just give you a short introduction on who you are and what you're doing?
So I'm Jeroen Knops. I'm the CEO of Proclus. We're a consulting company solely dedicated to SAP Integration. And we are a proud Figaf partner. So I think we have been working now for 5 or 6 years together with Daniel. And yeah, that gives us a few opportunities over the other companies.
Cool, thanks. And yeah, I think we met in Copenhagen at a SAP Insider track a couple of, I guess, a number of years ago, so 5-6 years ago. Had a good lunch, drove you to the airport, and got to talk about all these things that you're doing, also mix and max, and working on these different scenarios. So it's always been interesting to hearing your side of the story about how it is to work with SAP Integration, and I think that's what this session is about. Good, but I think that was the introduction. I think that the main topic of today is migrations, because I think with the 27 whatever deadline or limitations on what's going on, it is more apparent that you need to figure out how to migrate. By the way, do you know much about what the support is going to cost if you extend beyond that deadline?
I'm not sure. I think it will be a percentage of your license cost.
So just, I guess, a little higher percentage without getting anything from it.
Well, yeah, I guess SAP needs to pay all these people who still know Java 8. And all these developers, even if you're not going to get a lot of new features, of course, in your system. But I don't know the exact price. It might be also negotiable depending on your current contract with SAP, of course.
And I guess the roadmap for what you're going on with your migration and your purchase of Integration Suite, I guess there's a few non-disclosable things in that.
I think so too.
Cool. But I think that the first topic we talked about was how do you actually create a plan for your migration? I guess that's one of the things that, yeah, we've talked with a number of customers, like we need to, or I think more in the cases like we need to migrate, and I'm always trying to say, okay, but what is all the things behind it? Why do you get started, and what is all these steps that you need to do? How do you plan a migration, or would you recommend a customer going around that?
To come to a good migration plan, I think the first big step is to identify your own company. Where are we right now with our integrations? What kind of a team do I have available to do this migration? Are we still doing IDOC to file scenarios? What is our maturity level of integration? There are a few tools that can help you there. The second step will be to make a good assessment, a throughout assessment. So you definitely need an interface list. It might be one of the most boring tasks to do during a migration, but you absolutely need to know what you want to get into the new system, and also how much effort it will take you. For that one, we mostly use Figaf because it delivers you not only the number of ICOs, because that's just seen from a sender level, but we can also see everything from a receiver level. And then, third one is what is our budget available? Because depending on your budget, you need to choose a certain migration path. I can give you a short sample. We had a customer who needed to migrate more than 300 EDI mappings just to reduce a bit the budget. Seen that these mappings were not used they were in constant use, but they were only changed last time in 2006. We just made a copy of them. We reused them in the current TPM. Yeah, this is common. This is very common. I see a lot of PO interfaces that were not touched for multiple years.
and I guess then you start off, is this actually used, or what's going on with these things?
Exactly.
Does it actually matter, or is it just something that was created sometime by something? Yeah.
That doesn't say anything about its use. It was just a good interface built very well and being used until today. But of course, it has some challenges to get it migrated, because mostly you have no documentation anymore, or nobody still remembers how it exactly works.
Yeah, I guess reading rule from a message mapping is a little challenging from time to time.
Yeah, if it's just a mapping, that's fine. But then you have the RFC calls that are inside. You have an operational mapping mostly consists of multiple steps. You might have some nice XSLT, some Java, some ABAP mappings even, especially in the older ones. So yeah, in the end, you still need to do a lot of manual work. But to give a first impression, I think just these assessment tools help you to give you at least an indication on how long your project will take and how much effort it will take you.
Yeah. I think a lot of times when I talk about this this assessment and planning, the big question is, what can be migrated? Can we can you tell me what can be migrated? And my answer is always like, I don't know. It depends, and I guess it comes up with a lot with SAP's migration. Whenever we talk about that says, hey, this can be migrated. And then suddenly they find out that they have something inside of this that does not cover any of these checks. And it's like, okay, it's not migratable. And that's just the part I want to avoid and say, okay, yeah, we think it can be migrated most likely, but there is a 10%, 20% chance that it's not going to be like that for your scenarios. And maybe it's just for that one you tried out.
Yeah, of course, there are a few patterns where you can say safely it's for 99% chance that we can migrate it and even migrate it automatically. But of course, there are a lot of Java functions using SAP PI libraries. Yeah, it's clear that these ones cannot be migrated, and we need alternatives in integration suite. Yeah, by now we have a quite good set of alternatives, groovy alternatives for calling the old SAP PI libraries, and that helps, of course.
So you have created your own library in front of the groovy library to call the SAP libraries, or mock them, or
we just replace them. We just get rid of the old Java functions and we replace them
with news that are using, instead of dynamic attributes, using camel properties, stuff like that. Okay.
Exactly. It's a very long checklist with standard solutions that we use during a migration. And yeah, there are also scenarios that, of course, you can migrate one-on-one completely automatically. That are the nicest ones. But there is a lot of functionality also missing. I'm thinking about the BPMs that you need to build up in another SAP BTP component. A lot of Java mappings that were created to do a request reply block that you can just build out. Yeah, this is a case on case. So in the end, you can do very good assessments, but to get it working in your new system, you will need to go through the mud, as they say. You need to check it really into the integrated configuration and into the mapping.
Okay, pretty many things. BPMs, do you see that a lot as a hindering for the migrations?
It depends from customer to customer. So most customers just use PPM for technical reasons, so to collect iDocs and then send a collection of iDocs out to another system. Or then it's not a big problem because you can replace them with a normal iFlow. The more problematic integrations are the ones where they request input from a user, because you have not a real user interface anymore in Integration Suite. But for that one, there is a new component that exists in SAP BTP workflow. And there we did our first steps for a customer who has only user interaction in his BPMs. And we were able to rebuild a few of them. Must be clear there is no migration path. We just need to migrate them manually, analyze and migrate them manually. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What's the effort?
It depends on the. It depends completely on the BPM, how big it is. I've seen very big BPMs where you can have an effort of 89 days just to replace them. But I would say most of them are very small, and you can migrate them in 4 to 5 days. No.
4 to 5 weeks?
4 to 5 days, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
That depends on the planning. That was another thing you had pointed out. What was that? The B2B? No, the still one migration. The RFC lookups. How do you do those? I know in Figaf we try to just, if it's RFC lookups internally, we just put them into a UDF and then you can do lookups there. But is that also what you're using, or just plugging in a RFC call, or are you trying to replace it with something a little better?
Well, that depends a bit on the migration strategy. I mean, it's the same thing as with the mappings. If you have an RFC that has been used for years and years and the budget is low, well, we just call the existing RFC. Some customers want to modernize a bit and make it a no data API call, which we then call in a request reply block, or we use the standard way Figaf migrated it for us. Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I guess that is one of the things, and I think also in our assessment we do pop up that and give that there is something on these things that you need to consider as a part of the migration journey.
True.
What else? We talk about the process. How do you process a migration? What's the overall scope, and what's the important thing when you as a manager get out to a project and say, hey, we need to do the migration? What's
for me personally, it's always very important that we understand the scope both the same way, so that my customer always knows, okay, they are going to touch these processes for us, or functional processes, so that he exactly knows what he needs to test. Now, migrating from SAP PO to Integration Suite is much more than just moving from one system to another. I mean, before, when we would move from PI to PO, you just use the same support procedures and so on. That all changes as well. Also, the development changes. So I think I got started back in the early 2000s creating interfaces, and until today we are exporting these Java XSLT artifacts to a file and importing it in a new system. Probably it's time to refresh that procedure after 25 years and use a real deployment tool. SAP has some in his pocket, but of course we are in favor of Figaf. Why? Because it gives us a streamlined development process for all different customers. And that also means that it's easier for our consultants to work on different systems. So especially what people very often forget is it's not just testing after the migration, but it's testing every month again when they update your system. It's not up to you anymore to patch a system. It's SAP who will patch the system. That is a big advantage because you do not need to spend the time anymore in the dependency hell of transports and Java files and so on and configurations. But yeah, of course, you want to have that one tested for your critical interfaces, especially in the B2B area. You want to have everything run smoothly. Yeah.
I guess a couple of points on that. So we saw that our integration suite tenants was upgraded to Java 17 in August. We didn't have any issues at that we saw, but obviously it depends. We had some of our customers that had an adapter that wasn't updated correctly. Maybe it's also because it wasn't supporting the camel update, and that was what caused this challenge that you needed to ensure, when your systems is updated. And I think, we have this thing about sending out notification about what's going on whenever there's an update, and that simplifies, at least I can see, okay, so our system has been upgraded back and forth, and sometimes I see that they upgrade the version, then go back, upgrade the version of the Cloud Foundry runtime. Maybe they want to check something on it. But that's a bit interesting to see.
Yes, but of course, when you get the notification, it's done already. So that's also something a lot of customers forget to put their test system into another upgrade cycle.
Yeah, that's the delay. I guess your production, you want to say delay a period of time, so it's always delayed. Yeah. And then you have your week to do the testing and complain about what potential problems that there could be. So yeah, it makes sense to have the test case. I don't know, did you see the release or the security update that were this week or this week on the September patch date? There was an update in the P4 protocol that would allow someone to send remote code that would be executed on the PI system. So that means you probably need to upgrade that one in that perspective. And I was seeing that there was from Service Pack 20 to 33. So it seems like SAP is still producing a lot of support packages for these things, but I'm not sure customers are really into the process of upgrading these things.
That was the joke before. Always, if you had a topic and it was really related to PI or PO, the first question was on which service pack are you, and then you first had to upgrade 5 or 6 service packs, and SAP would just refuse any support until you were on the current service pack. Yeah, that won't happen anymore in the integration suite, I think.
I think our internal development systems it's on Service Pack maybe 20, which is the last one that they in this update had updates for. So, but I guess it's also about. It's not like there has been a lot of improvements for API functionality, stuff like that, in the last period of time, making it a little less required to do such updates.
True.
Unless you really need this SFTP or OAuth credential stuff or whatever that has been added recently.
True, but that also gave some standstill to the ecosystem. I think that was greatly enhanced once they came out with Integration Suite.
So the chat and the QA is open. If you have comments, questions, challenges, something you want us to cover, please put them into the chat or the Q&A. We'll try to cover those things. The more of those interesting conversations we have, the better. This is also about what is it that's important for you in this scenario. We touched a little on this B2B migration. I think that's one of the things that is greatly impacting a lot of customers, because the roadmap from migrating B2B is, it is a big challenge. It's a new way of thinking, building things, stuff like that. You also had an experience with migrating, using the Figaf tool, and what was the result of that?
So the result was very good, especially that we could, well, B2B was is a central component for that customer. So we could just migrate most of his interfaces without touching them at all and directly migrate them within the TPM ecosystem. We did not have the advantage yet of the latest developments, where that is done for us in vain. We did still have to do it manually. And I must admit that, yeah, you need to study a bit on TPM before you can really use it. But yeah, I think the result can be seen. One of the weaker points for me for the TPM is the monitoring. For everything you do in B2B, if you use this pipeline model, you always have 4 or 5 transactions, and it's quite difficult to monitor. But now the new TPM offers you the monitoring of
the B2B monitoring of the...
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Which is very nice for customers and very clear. Also, the TPM gives them some, well, almost the same interfaces that we're used to in 2PO. And it gives them the possibility to onboard customers back again themselves once you know the system. But that involves, of course, a bit of training.
Yeah. And obviously, yeah, I guess you were using, I don't know, 5 release or something like that for this main migration.
Yes.
And it is one of the things we have improved a lot on. So right now you can do a one-click migration of an operation mapping connected with all the correct TPM agreements. It does require some effort to set up, and then also partner creation, so they're all being created consistently. The latest thing that is most likely come out in our September release is going to be transport of trading partner agreements, which I guess is one of the things that you probably also ran into, that it was a lot of headache to move some of these things into.
I think that's definitively one of the weak points, and it would be of great help if we could just migrate these ones automatically also over Figaf, because now, of course, we do the artifacts over Figaf, and then we have some manual rework, and that's a bit a tedious task. So looking forward to that feature.
There's a question here also about involving internal resources in the migration journey. What's the difference between internal versus so if you're hiring you to do a migration, what is it that you are expected to, or what is, as a customer, what is it that I'm expected to do? What would be a good thing that I do versus what is the part that you would think would make most sense?
It depends a bit on how you work right now. I see the type of customer who outsources everything. So they just want an interface from us, and they want us to do the whole thing, as well the development as the support later on. There are other teams who have more, let's say, the minimal team, so they are able to do the day-to-day support themselves. Well, these teams, I would suggest that, well, at least they should be involved in the project on the scoping, what is important, what is not, what is in use, what is not in use. They should rejoin the project latest when we are testing again. Why? Because it's during testing that you see the common issues that come up, where to fix them in the system, so that you are back again able to deliver support yourself. And then for the real development, if you have real integration developers on board, of course, it makes sense to let them migrate a few interfaces to understand where the issues are, and especially the modernized interfaces. So when you do a migration, you will always decide to modernize a few things, be it involving API management, be it using the integration advisor. And I think in these cases, the internal developers should join already during the development phase to use these new tools. The best, you can follow 6 weeks of training, theoretical training, and that you need some theoretical training, but I think it's better to have really hands-on experience on your own system and on your own cases. because then you really take advantage of your migration. So migration is very costly thing because you just bring something that works from left to right, but in that way you can take some advantage of the budget you spent.
Yeah, I think that is an important part, and also this thing that you as a consultant go in, do the work, and then you're gone again afterwards. And there's only a group of people that are then supposed to be supporting this, unless you also get the support afterwards to manage this for a period of time. But I guess it is, and as I see it, it is in the process. You also need to do this thing about you as a customer need to go and say, yeah, this will not work for us. And then you as a consultant would need to say, but this is probably the best idea, or come with different arguments on that topic.
Yeah, one need to find one another a bit in such a project. Yeah, that there need to be a good match, and I think there are solutions for everyone in the end. I mean,
yeah, but I guess it's also about just not say, hey, here, go migrate. This is we don't really care, just migrate. And I think that's also what some things that we see some places that some customers win or create an maybe that's also an interesting conversation. I've talked with a number of customers say, yeah, we're just creating this RFP for this migration project, and then some customers would win that, and they would do all the migrations. Like, wouldn't it make sense to get different perspectives on the migration? Hire someone else, do 2 or 3 competing projects, and then get the best approach, especially if you're on the +100 or +1000 integration, where you're really going to have differences in understanding what's going on.
Well, that might be a solution, but I think it's very valuable to have consultants who are very close to your business and who understand your business. I see a very big difference between consultants who know the business processes at a customer and the ones that are just throwing over the interfaces without a very deep understanding. I would also make the team not too big. I think 3 to 4 consultants that can communicate directly with one another are probably more worth than 10 to 20 consultants somewhere very far away, who do not really know your processes.
Yeah, and maybe that's also the part I at least also want to see when you talk about how to automate things with the Figaf tool. You need a certain speed or a certain number of migrations before you really get to understand what's going on. So the thing about migrating a scenario every 2 weeks, not really going to cut it. You would not really get this critical understanding of how you're working on good with all the different tools.
Yeah, especially it helps you to keep in the same pace to work, right? So with the Figaf tool, we can have one process over the whole migration team.
Yeah.
And if these ones know the processes and the process works in the end in the system, that's for me done. It also depends a bit on your definition of done, of course. Is done. The interface is standing in integration suite, and I can send one test message through it. That's an easy one. But the real thing is my process is back again working as it was before, and my way of working is improved.
Yeah. Yeah, yes. I guess it's also about getting a way to work easier on these things. I guess another topic, obviously, we talked about this partnership. Why is it that you are a partner of Figaf? What's in it for you?
So, yeah, it all got started when we had these Seaburger migrations, also in the B2B area. So a lot of people were using them, and we needed a way to migrate them, but it was quite a tedious task to migrate them. That's where we got originally in touch, but you guys also deliver us a development process. It's much more than just a migration tool or just a test tool. I know there are a lot of test tools available on the market, but Figaf is really focused on SAP integration, and it works very well with SAP PI, PO, and integration suite. Also the switches between the different platforms. And that helps us as a team a lot. It gives all our consultants a common way of working and of following up the work. And especially it raises the quality, because the way I transport my artifacts using CTS Plus or the standard SAP transport way in SAP BTP, I can, for example, not copy over my configuration or have no configuration database. And okay, you can forget one something, but the customer watches you a bit strange and he loses a bit of trust in you when your fifth interface is not working after transporting production because you forgot to adopt the SAP adapter settings. And one must say in integration suite, you need to configure it per adapter connection. And that's a very big task, right?
Yeah. Cool. If you are a customer, why would you look for a partner that is using Figaf?
It helps you to modernize your development process, but also for the testing part. So as I said before, you're moving to the cloud, you need to test every month and not anymore every 3 years when you do a big improvement of your ERP system or whatsoever. It's an easy way to get this regression testing to run. It will modernize your whole DevOps process. There is a lot that is available out of the box, and you will really win time. As well in the transports as in the testing area, but also in the development area. It's very easy to find out, okay, who did what in the system, because that's also a feature that is a bit missing in integration suite. You can easily compare the version of an iFlow and what changed. Yeah.
And see that some guy made a change directly in your production system. Always good to know.
Exactly.
Cool. So there's, and then the last topic was a little of DevOps. Obviously, in a migration, it is a part of it, the DevOps, because you have the conversion, you have testing, but you have a long go live process about moving things and configuring things, and there's a lot of challenges about configuring these things. And you have also been using the DevOps capabilities. Yeah, what's the most used feature?
Well, what is the most used feature? I think the comparing of iFlows is very used, but also the setup of these test cases. Especially in the EDI world, if you set up a few good testing rules, like, okay, you can forget about this segment and this segment because we know there is the current date inside. If you have these templates, it really helps you working faster and migrating your EDI interfaces faster. Is this special license still available, the migration license? Or
we still have the migration edition that allow you to test these things. The only challenge with the only limitation is that the test case is only valid for 30 days once you migrate. But I guess then coming back to this, why waste a migration project creating test cases if it is not for having a continuous way of creating test cases? Or sorry, not creating, running these tests to see, is there an impact on our system with the latest releases?
Exactly, sir. Yeah, I would then immediately purchase the full version because you will need it anyway, and yeah, it's a bit of a waste of spending your money in creating all these test cases if you're not going to reuse them later on.
You also talked about our new send feature. So we have this functionality. So in PI, you have this ability to go into runtime workbench, say send message, and that would enable you to send a message. And we added that also to the Figaf tool 2 months ago, something like that. And we have just added a new feature in this functionality.
So I see that it's a feature that is very accessible to all lazy developers, as most integration developers are. I think it was also, now I know why I love that feature so much. Probably I'm getting a bit nostalgic. Seeing that we're doing one of the last migrations so one of our last customers is moving from PO to Integration Suite. And it was always a favorite test tool of all the developers. And I see that, for creating test cases, it's easier for our developers to use that one. And they really like it. I really want to go the old way sometimes.
So the idea is in the tool we added this send message. You can select an iFlow. It will then see what are the URLs that you want to use in this iFlow. You can send a message into it, and you have now an option that says record message, which will switch the iFlow trace mode, and then you can easily take this payload and use as a normal Figaf test case that you can always run. And it takes like a minute. I created a video on this, and a minute to create a test case that should be doable as a way of documenting that the things you have created run scenarios correctly. Any question, comments? Please put it in chat or the Q&A section for these things. Anything we haven't covered that you think would make sense?
Well, I'm just thinking, probably the topic infrastructure. That's all. The infrastructure topic of migrations. That's also a topic that's also a bit sensible, because most people think, we're moving to the cloud. We do not need anything anymore. But it seems to be forgotten. And that's probably also back to the question we got before, in how far will internal resources be involved? Well, that's a critical one, because only your internal people know exactly how your infrastructure is looking like and how it's working. You must take a firm decision on where to put all your tooling. Will it all be in SAP BTP? Where to put your cloud connectors, how to cluster them, where to put your clustered cloud connectors, not to create an extra problem into your own setup, and to ensure you can provide all your services as before. So what is the favorite place for installing Figaf at the moment, Daniel? Because we have a few options there.
I think so. Our main focus for installing the tool is to so obviously you can run it locally on your PC, but that's only for proof of concept. We also have an option to run it in Docker, standalone Windows service. But what we see most of our customers doing is just deploy the Figaf tool in BTP Cloud Foundry, because then it's reusing all the security material or all the security setups from the B2B or from the BTP SAP's cloud platform. You have your own database, and it's when we're getting all these security questions, it's a lot of these questions about who owns the data? Is it a SaaS tool? What makes sense? And it's much easier to just say, we do not, as Figaf, have access to your data. It's all in SAP that you already have certified because you're using Integration Suite, and that simplifies the process quite a bit, that we're not keeping or using all of this data. We do have a cloud, but we only recommend that as like a POC. Use the tool for see what it looks like with your trial account, with whatever scenarios you have, and thereby be able to see, does this make sense for you?
Mm-hmm.
But it is, it's pretty easy to run in BTP. You just click deploy, CF deploy, push, and then you're getting a new version. Now, right now here we had a new version. There was a customer that was facing a problem, so we had a patch, and now they just need to run this CF push, and they will get the latest patch with the latest functionality. So it's pretty easy.
And is there an easy way to estimate the costs then?
You can use the what's called the online calculator. Normally, we recommend that you have a standard Postgres service you're using 10 or 20 gigabyte of Postgres, and our default is like 4 gigabyte of memory, but I think a lot of customers is experimenting about moving that down so you are paying less. So it is like 300 euros a month in BTP credits that you're paying. Obviously, if you are huge customers with thousands of interfaces, you should probably put in a bit more memory in this and spend so it becomes a little more expensive, but it is still pocket change in the greater scheme of things. and I guess it's also a little on this thing that you can obviously run the Figaf tool a lot cheaper if you just get a plain VM somewhere that you're paying whatever $5 a month. Should be able to run this, maybe $10 a month. You should actually be able to run the tool with a full Postgres database with all these things. But then you're just needing to add a lot of extra complexity to this to be able to support the platform. SSL certificates, you need to add database backups, all these things that is just taking care of user access management, all these things. Like, I would love to say this is that's a better approach, but I think SAP just have a good way for managing these things.
Yes, but it's a fair point to take a few extra credits for your migration tooling into your migration plan. Yeah.
Hopefully it's not just a migration tool, but a continuous investment in understanding this tool. We got a question on Edge Integration Cell and how it will evolve in the future. Any experience migrating with Edge Integration Cell? Have you done any work with Edge Integration Cell?
Yes, so we have set up Integration Cell in a few environments. We're also teaming up with SUSE Ranger to set up Integration Cell on bare bone metal. Our experience is, well, you quickly come to the reality how easy cloud is, because of course Edge Integration Cell means exactly the same thing as for the Figaf tool. You all of a sudden need to take care of backups, of networking, of DNS, and so on. Moreover, the current version of Integration Cell it can run longer, but it can run maximum 4 hours independently, and then you're flying blind because you do no longer have your MPLs and so on, because these ones are still in the cloud. So from the moment your Edge Integration Cell is not connecting to the internet anymore, the integrations itself are running, but you're really flying blind, and it's quite a heavy setup, or it's still a heavy setup, which is clear because SAP cannot prepare for your whole landscape. It doesn't know under which host name you want to have this integration cell. On the other hand, for people who really are manufacturing, I think it's some kind of a peace of mind to ensure that their whole MES system is still working and the whole reporting on their MES. Yeah. Just to give an example, or warehouse management. Yeah.
But I guess the problem also, as I see it, at least is I don't know how much time do you normally spend on an installation of an Edge on SUSE Ranger?
At the moment it's still a week until you get your servers available, your accesses, and so on. So it takes a lot of time, and until you know all the firewall rules, until you get the right people to talk to.
Okay, so there's the installation part, and then there's all the organizational part around how do you manage this cluster or whatever.
Yes, and you also need to keep it up to date. So you will receive some emails from SAP. Hey, it's the moment to update your integration cell. I think adoption is more slow at the moment, even though some international events speeded it up at some customers. What is your take on it, Daniel? Do you see a lot of integrations?
we do talk with a few customers on it that are using Figaf. Also, we have supported for test case creation, but I think there was a period of time where we're using the trace that is suddenly was removed. I'm not sure if it fits the latest release that we tried to run, if that part was fixed in those scenarios. There's some lacking features, and I guess especially a lot of these customers want to use it for pipeline concepts, which is not supported partner directory yet, so that is also Q1. We also have one it's running, and yeah, we tried to run it on SUSE Ranger locally, but that was just too cumbersome, so we decided to put it in Azure, and that's relatively more expensive. Yeah, it's like $400 a month that we're paying for that, which obviously is okay, but it's doing nothing. And like, yeah, we should probably go with the SUSE range and see if we could move it locally and see if that would simplify some of this thing. But our focus of it is only the running. See how we can run test on it. See how those scenarios works. Thanks, Ray. Other questions? That was good. But yeah, I guess the part that we somehow was hoping also when they announced this was like, okay, do I also get the local runtime I can have on my PC to run these things, a Docker image that I can run it? But I guess with the current requirements, that's not really gonna happen. It would have been nice if you had like a web ID you can run locally, everything, and commit to Git and stuff like that. But yeah, I can understand that makes sense to have. Well, it's a different roadmap you wanted to get into in that perspective.
Well, that's true. You can only use it for very simple scenarios. And yeah, somewhere I understand they want to keep the development tools online. Because otherwise you could run it completely offline, right?
Yeah, and I guess the maybe one of the challenges also with this is all these whatever multi or military stuff like that want to be completely offline. It's going to be a bit of a challenge. You can obviously say, yeah, do not do these things, do not monitor the content inside of Integration Suite, or you do not see any payload. But I guess there is some challenges about what is it that you're actually going to work on those scenarios.
Yeah, very true.
Because yeah, it's
also when you start archiving them, it becomes interesting. What needs to be in the archive and whatnot.
Yeah. And I guess that's, I don't know how that works, if it all just automatically knows how much to put in the database and delete and stuff like that. But I do think, yeah, it's interesting approach. Have you used the API management on its integration cell?
No, I didn't. Just
One else done? We've seen it. But yeah, never
was the standard iFlows, and there I quickly discovered that there was no partner directory available, and that, well, I made a very beautiful plan with a pipeline concept in and so on, and then I saw very quickly on the integration, so like, oops, this is not working.
But we have recommended some of our customers then to put it into some XSLT or value mappings. It's not really ideal, so hopefully that it will switch at some point in time.
So did you put everything, I mean, for every interface in value mappings, or only the ones that needed to run on Edge integration cell?
Yes, I don't know what they ended up doing, but our focus was we put in content into the partner directory, create a webhook or an API that reads the partner directory and plug it into a web or a value mapping for certain criteria, and then modify the pipeline flows to use this value mapping instead of the partner directory. I'm not sure how well that went. I think they had some experiments. It worked. But I guess it's also about, I would probably not push it out to millions of interfaces at the moment. But maybe it's a good idea to at least get, and maybe that's the most important part about getting an understanding of how it is to run its integration cell, how you are actually able to upgrade, support it as you start using the tool.
Well, yeah, one always needs to think, do I really absolutely need it? I think there are a few options available of running integration suite in multiple instances that can bring you to the same level.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I often see is this things that customers are running their SAP system in whatever, Azure, and then they have the integration suite also running the same Azure data centers. Like, there's not really a need to run it in your own Azure data center also, because it's anyway going on the same network of someone from Azure. They would still be able to look at your data. It's not adding that much extra complexity.
That's true. That's true. I'm completely your opinion there.
Yeah, there's during early stages of migrations of cost and resource for migration C and FP, what are the major factors that influence your estimation? What has the hardest learnings during these estimations, and have Figaf using an impact on these things? So when you're going out to do this estimation of a 10,000 or 1,000 ICO migration project, what is the major factor that you put into this?
Well, it's always a combination of the SAP assessment tool and the lists we get out of Figaf. So I see already a discrepancy. Very often I see a discrepancy there between what they tell us, how much work it will be, and then with Figaf, when we look into detail, we see like, oh, but this interface is 20 receivers. That cannot be. It's an easy migration path. So one needs to interpret all this data coming from the assessment and from Figaf with one should interpret them very well, right? There will always be surprises in every migration. What surprised me a lot is what we find in Java mappings sometimes. So sometimes people build in a whole document management system connecting to other applications on the Java server itself. A lot of loops.
Yeah, the Seaburger also did something like that, and just database lookup.
Yes, exactly.
Some experiments and putting in a
exactly. So what is the advantage then of having Figaf is that technically you can have a look deeper into the system. If you're not using Figaf, you do not have that information, of course, and you will deviate a bit more from the number you would get.
And I guess so obviously there's the part about knowing how the migration work, how is your effort in doing migration, knowing that what the tool can do, what does it take to create a test case, all these things that you need to factor into this. And I guess the more you know about how to use the tool, the easier it becomes to do this estimation. There's another question here. Can you elaborate a bit on which iFlow you are okay to run without pipeline mode in SAP Integration Suite? Coming from PI, we feel every asynchronous message should be staged. Yes, it is. Quite a common scenario, or at least because it was the default behavior that you had this retry mechanism, and I guess that's also a part of this. Does this actually matter if the message is being delivered? But I think in general, since you can use the pipeline concept and it's not that much effort, it should probably be the default approach for most of your scenarios that are async.
Yeah. How do you feel about the pipeline concept? Should it be used in all cases?
Ooh. So we had we were working with a workshop with a customer the other day, and we had like, okay, we have this IDOC to distribute it into multiple different systems, and it was like, okay, there's a simple mapping that's being executed in multiple different scenarios, and a lot of this was also, I would say, the pipeline concept might said they should make some changes in the XSLT, so they only had one receiver iFlow, and then they could connect via in the connectivity, use some pipeline concept or partner directory to look up system names and authentication algorithms. So they somewhat separated it. But the benefit, as I see with the pipeline concept, is that if you're using that, it becomes a lot easier to get new people on board, because most people will be using that flow, because you can certainly create your own flows. And we see a lot of this, and all consultants coming out and say, yeah, we created our own pipeline concept. Like, but it's also, does it make sense? Does it really matter? But obviously, if you have a million IDOCs that's just being routed or something like that, you may consider, okay, let's do it without out asynchronous, because we can always resend them or something like that.
Yeah, I see the same thing. So we have two types of customers. The customers who say, okay, we go for the pipeline concept. It's a bit more complex, but we know we have a lot of consulting for it. And I have other customers who say, no, we don't use that. That's too complex, especially question of monitoring and knowing what is going wrong where. We need that faster, or we do not have the big team, or we are just a smaller organization. We then just prefer to go with one iFlow, one integration schema, which in that case is quite valid, I think. I see that Varun is still worried about the limitation in number of queues. Well, mostly for the pipeline model, you split up the number of queues depending on the kind of message. If it's a normal priority message, a high priority message, or a low priority message, and I think standard you have already quite a lot of queues available. I
think you have like up to 300 is the default. You can increase it to, and then up to 300 you can open an OSS on. If you need to go above that, it's a little more challenging. But I saw on customers that break that they have 1,000 plus queues on it. So it depends. But I guess also when you're using the pipeline concept, each priority queue is, I think, 4 or 8 queues, depending on your scope and what you would need for these things. And I think that is, yeah. And you would have like 5 maximum different flows that are processing, like where it would make sense to separate it in that way. And I guess then you're coming to the exactly once in order. Yeah, that is a big challenge, I think, with any of these flows. How do you actually going to support that? Hopefully you can offload it to the receiving system if possible. I think that's the best approach for it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I didn't know that we had so many queues available by now.
And then I guess also if you're running on Edge integration cell, you can set up as many queues as you like. As I understand it, but obviously each queue does come with a bit of a challenge on what you're able to do. It makes sense that each iFlow is not using more queues than it's needed. So the other approach, we have this local process that is using local queues to process messages in. But yeah, if you're not using pipeline concept, you would need to have a queue per interface, or you would need to have a queue dispatcher and that is able to deal with these things. And yeah, adding some extra complexity. Cool, Jeroen, thanks. And thanks all participants for joining. I hope you enjoyed today's call. Thanks, Jeroen, for sharing. Hope you had a
time. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. I guess that's that one we wanted to cover. There's some requirements for Kubernetes. I think that the complexity of installing its integration cell is huge, and especially if you're not used to work with these scenarios. It was the same thing when we came to the basis guys and said, hey, we need to have this Java stack installed that you need to manage. Like, they didn't really like that.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks. Thanks. Have a good weekend coming up. And do some great integration work. So thank you for today.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.